Hey fam, welcome back to Create Compassion. Today I'm interviewing my friend Emma. We're talking about some real stuff today about bullying and just why it's so important to be kind, especially in this day and age. Personally, I feel like COVID has just taken a hit on so much in the past, and it's more important now to be kind and compassion, to create compassion more than ever. So that's why I'm talking to Emma today. We're both wearing our like comfy sweatshirts.
I'm in my comfy.
She's got her comfy on. I've got my Jesus sweatshirt. And we are here to talk about this. Emma, if you want to introduce yourself, I'll give you a second to do that.
All right, I'm Emma. I'm going to school right now to study massage therapy. My diagnosis is generalized anxiety disorder. I don't really know if I have bipolar, but I don't know if it's bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. They said it was like bipolar depression. And then I have borderline personality disorder, and major depressive disorder, as well as trauma. But that's undiagnosed.
Well, thank you for sharing. I think you have a really, really, like I said, a really, really powerful story to share today. And I'm really, really, really grateful that you're here to talk about this. If you want, you can just start talking. I'd love to hear more about your story. And I'm sure, yeah, we're here to listen.
My story is ever since I was a child, probably since I was in preschool, kids used to leave me out of everything. And I have a pretty good memory. Like, I remember things probably from like my age when I was like 2. It's kind of crazy, like how really insane my memory is. When I was in preschool, I remember not having a ton of friends. Kids would leave me out of everything, they would pick on me, and it really brought me down. I thought that elementary school would get better. It didn't. First grade was fine. I really didn't have a ton of friends still. Second grade was good. Third grade wasn't bad. I was behind. I have a learning disability as well. So, I mean, that really kind of just, I got made fun of that for that a lot of the times. A lot of the kids thought I do not like that word, the R word. They thought it was the R word a lot of the time. They would call me that word. And it really brought me down. Like, I had a social worker. I would have to meet with a social worker in school every Friday, and I would have to miss a recess because of it. And that really brought me down too, because I was missing out on what I was doing with all my other friends. I mean, the one friend that I had that I've been best friends with since first grade. Fourth grade was fine. Fifth grade was probably the worst year of my entire life. That year I had everybody in my class pretty much turned against me except my one friend. It got so bad. I was 10, I was gonna be 11, that I contemplated suicide. I never told anybody this until I was 18. I came home from school that day in tears. I was like to my mom, I'm like, I don't want to go back to school. I told her I wanted to drop out. A fifth grader, telling your mother that you want to drop out of school because you hate it that much. The teacher was not very good about handling the bullying that went on. I kept telling my mom I wanted to drop out of school, to the point where she actually had to go to the school and say something. Nothing was done at all. The people that were bullying me did apologize once it was brought to their teacher's attention, but it kept going on throughout the whole school year. I was really nervous to move up a grade to go to sixth grade, because I was like, if this same thing keeps happening, I'm really going to actually have to think about committing suicide. I really thought that that was the one thing that for me was going to be perfect. Like, I thought, oh, you know what? I'm just going to do this and it's not going to affect anybody else. Seventh grade was not good. Middle school, I was really nervous for. I was excited. I had made a few friends, maybe like 1 or 2, I don't know. I was never really like a shy kid. I was always very, very nice to everybody, which I feel like that at times can have, good and not good traits with that. I feel like sometimes, like, I was talking to my therapist today, I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm too nice. She's like, you care a lot. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but it's not always a good thing, I feel like. It has its good qualities and its bad qualities.
You can get hurt easily, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. People try to take advantage of you a lot. 7th grade though I was really nervous because I was just like, I wanted to sit with the right people at lunch. I had made a friend, and I remember the social worker pulled me out of lunch that day because she wanted me to be in her group and but I'm like, I am not missing lunch 1 day a week just so I can do this. And she's like, well, you need it. Well, I had a fit. I literally started bawling my eyes out, and I went home to my mom. I'm like, I'm not going back to school unless you talk to this one person. I'm like, I don't need social worker groups. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm not doing this. I'm not leaving my friend at lunch. So then the social worker called her and said, I'm sorry for what happened. It won't happen again. I didn't realize 7th grade was also bad because whenever I would try to get a seat on the bus, people would not move over for me. The bus driver actually would move the bus. And one time I was actually trying to get a seat and I hit my head on a window. My mom had to threaten her with legal action. She said,
Yeah.
you move the bus one more time while my daughter is trying to get a seat, I will see your butt in court. It was really bad.
I can't say it's shocking because it's your story, but it is, to see
Well, I
how,
mean, it's like a bus driver too, is being
yeah,
a
like how
complete
can
jerk.
someone treat you like that?
And then from that day forward, I had a front seat on the bus because it was like they knew nobody could take that seat. It was my seat. And then 8th grade, I was nervous because of course, nobody used to sit with at lunch. So I was sitting at a table where this one girl she was just rude in general to me. In elementary school, we went to primary school together. She's just being rude, saying, "Oh, you can't sit here." And then she went and told the teacher on me that I was sitting there and that I was saying things about her, and she moved to a different table. And I was really upset and not happy with her at all. I didn't talk. This teacher was like a student gym teacher of mine that I knew from actually a basketball camp that I was in. I didn't talk to her for 2 days afterwards because I was so frustrated with her. And then I asked some girls that I was in choir with, I'm like, hey, is it okay if I sit with you guys at lunch? They're like, yeah, why don't you come over? So I did eventually get to sit with some girls at lunch and then in 8th grade. But being in choir, you went on field trips as well. So it was very difficult because it was like you wanted to be with a certain group. I wanted to be with the group that I went to lunch with, that I ate lunch with. Well, they didn't want me in their group. They told me I couldn't be in their group. I called my mom and I was hysterical crying in the bathroom and said, I don't want to go. Can you please come just get me at school? And she was heartbroken. She emailed the teacher saying, this is ridiculous. These people are tormenting my daughter when they should be her friends. They told her that she couldn't be in their group. And that's just, it's breaking my heart that she's going through this. And then the social worker was actually going on the field trip. So she's like, if Emma needs a group. She found me in the bathroom crying. She's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm supposed to go on the choir trip, but I don't want to go because nobody's letting me be in the group. And she's like, I'm gonna find you a group. She's like, and if nobody says yes, I'm gonna put you in one and they're gonna have to deal with you either way. She's like, this is not fair to you at all. One group of kids that I was with, they saw me crying and they're like, what's going on? And I just said, nobody's wanting me to be in the group. And they had originally said no as well, but they felt bad because of what they said. So they're like, we're sorry for what we said, you're allowed to be with us. 9th grade was really bad as well when I went to high school because I thought that would be a good year.
I feel like middle school and high school are just their own beast with things.
High school is probably the worst because it's just like there's so much stuff going on with I don't want to say puberty, but people are changing, people are trying to find out. I feel like sometimes in high school they stress also what you want to do way too much. They're like, you need to know what you want to do. You don't need to know what you want to do. I'm 25 years old and I still don't. 9th grade was bad because I had this one friend that I met in 7th grade and she turned on me. And that was really upsetting because I didn't understand what was going on. I was sitting with her at lunch and I was trying to talk to her and she kept going like this. Like 1 second, she wouldn't talk to me. That was heartbreaking for me, losing a friend that I have been best friends with since 7th grade. I came home, I actually went to the nurse's office one day because I was in actual pain. I actually just wanted to come home because my anxiety was so high. And my mom emailed my gym teacher and said, I know this is ridiculous. I'm thinking you gotta love your parents. The one thing is about parents don't really understand the whole thing with anxiety sometimes. I love my mom, don't get me wrong, she's great, but they don't really fully understand at times. And, she even told me, I think it's your anxiety. And I'm like, I didn't think I had anxiety at the time.
I didn't know what mine was until I was older and I kind of knew like what the world, like the definition was of
Right.
anxiety. And then I was like, wait, I've been having this for my whole life, you know?
Yeah. Well, I always had like test anxiety and stuff like that. I'm a horrible test taker with
Mhm.
everything. So that for me was very, nerve wracking. It got to the point where I went to the social worker's office. Something this needs to be resolved. My mom's like, why don't you go to the social worker? Well, the social worker was very like just weird, like just not like it wasn't okay. Like it was like he helped me with some things. Like I actually was bullied by a teacher. Before I was getting bullied by the teacher, I mean, my best friend was bullying me. So I mean, he called her down to the office. He said something to her and nothing changed. So I was really upset. And that's the day I came home from school in tears. I called my mom at the nurse's office and said, I need to go home. I'm not feeling well. I think I lied and said I had a fever or something like that because I just wanted to get out of there. Came home. She just like, I think it's your anxiety. No, everybody I felt like hated me in school. Like sometimes you feel like everybody is against you. I felt like everybody was staring at me. Spring break. It was like around spring break, and all my friends that I had were hanging out with the girls, and I was not invited. That's when my depression really set in and I was suicidal and was thinking about ending my life. And this is kind of a real eye opener for me because that's kind of when I heard God tell me, don't do it. If you do this, you're really gonna mess everything up and no, you know what, it's not gonna be a good thing.
How would you say that Jesus has helped you through your struggle with mental illness?
I think that him telling me not to kill myself was the first thing. I think that's kind of when I started thinking like maybe I should start going because I was going to church, but it wasn't like regularly. That's kind of when I was just like, okay, you know what? He's trying to talk to me. I maybe should start praying more, believing in him more. Well, that went on for about 6 months to a year. And he stopped like answering me altogether. And I was just like, something, this is not how it's supposed to be going. So I stopped and I got really angry with him and just said, you don't care about me. You just wanted me not to hurt myself because you loved me then. And I truly didn't think he loved me anymore. Then when I became a sophomore in high school, I was getting ready to go on the confirmation retreat. That really kind of was I did not want to go because I didn't really know what was going to happen or anything. It was like different with everything. At one point, I had saw him and thought, okay, that's a sign right there that he's trying to. I mean, I didn't really think it was a sign at the time because we were doing like a guided meditation and stuff like that. And then on the confirmation retreat, we had a night where we were reading letters from like our families and stuff like that. And that was really emotional. I probably had 20 or 30 letters from different people in my family. And that for me was amazing. I also felt like on the retreat, like I felt like, God was almost like tapping me on the shoulder, being like, I'm here. I'm not gonna ever stop loving you and stuff like that.
It was like he was saying, your family loves you, but I guess who else loves you,
Right.
Yeah.
I cried after that. I mean, I cried for probably a week straight because that to me was like, and I was like, I'm like, I am so sorry. I didn't even know. But like he's so forgiving with everything that he's like, it's fine, like he forgives for pretty much everything. So
Absolutely. I think it's common when people are going through struggles, especially like mental health struggles,
mhm.
we can easily forget that we are loved. And I think in that moment, it was almost like he was silent for how many months just to show you at the end even more powerfully how loved you
Mhm.
are from your family. Like he was just waiting for you to kind of realize it. And then at the end, he was just going to let you know either way,
Yeah.
um, to show you that there's love not only from the people here on this earth, but that he loves you. And honestly, his love, I have felt it before. I've had my own experience with it. And it's the most beautiful, pure, powerful, perfect thing. And I always describe it as something that sustains you. Like
Mhm.
if that was all we could live in, if we were not on this earth, if we were in heaven, we could survive off just his love. And that's really at the end all we really need. And so I think I loved hearing about your I think that's amazing. I had a similar experience with confirmation, where we went on the little retreat at the end, and we had the box or the envelope, and they had all the different letters from your loved ones inside. And
Mhm.
I was crying really hard at quite a few of them too. They hand you a box of Kleenex, and you're like, "Why do I need this? What's in the envelope?"
Yeah, right.
And so no, God always finds ways to show us who he is, and who he is love. I'm really
Thank
grateful that
you.
you took some time for this discussion today, and I really hope your story helps people. And if someone is a victim of, just honestly, I feel like it's bullying, but it's more just like it's like almost like ignoring someone as a form of bullying, you know?
Yeah, it is.
And I had a year in middle school like that too, and my story is different, and your story is, I just think it can help so many people. So I really hope
Mhm.
whoever's watching this today, they learn that they're not alone in their struggle, and most importantly, that there is hope in Christ, and that there's hope
Mhm.
going forward, that they are never alone, and that they are always completely and perfectly loved. So thank you so much again for speaking today. I'm really grateful you shared your story. Thank you for being vulnerable. Guys, this is Create Compassion. I'm Lexi. Did I ever say my name? I don't know. But thank you for watching. You're a beautiful person. So I hope you have a day that's as beautiful as you are.